Hey yo, who's in the house? Dies in your house. What is the word? What goes on, peeps? J Pork's here. We're back. Something important to me. I needed to come through. I needed to pull up. I said if the last podcast got 30 views, I would come back with another one. It didn't, but this is not gonna start political, so hear me out. First of all, views and opinions expressed on my podcast, that of my own, not representative of that of my employer. Welcome to another episode of Dyze in your house. You see the thing at the bottom? That is my Cash App. Tips are appreciated. The clock just struck midnight on Friday, May 23rd. And today, the last episode of Around the Horn on ESPN is going to air. I know, everyone just rolled their eyes. Oh my God, what the hell is this? I'll explain. Around the Horn is an important show, not only to me, but to a lot of people like my age, and it really... there's a lot of sports debate television on shows, like on TV, on streaming services, on the internet. There's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of all that, where people are arguing about sports. There's the bridge to that is you have Mike and the Mad Dog on the radio in New York. There's a 30 for 30 on that, you can get that. And then you have the 5 o'clock hour at ESPN for the last 20-something years. It's Around the Horn, and then it's Pardon the Interruption, PTI. Max Kellerman was the original host of Around the Horn. It's an interesting show where they take sports journalists from different cities. So there'll be 4 of them. So you get different perspectives. So because it's national. Because here's the thing, I could turn on ESPN and I could listen to them talk about sports, and I could also turn on my local radio station and they'll have an entirely different opinion. For example, you go on TV and it's I turn on ESPN, Karl Anthony Towns needs to be taking threes and he needs to be, the finesse player that he is. You turn on WFAN and it's Karl Anthony, the opposite. Whatever, I'm sorry. The opposite of that. You'll turn on ESPN and they'll be he needs to be more aggressive. And you'll turn on WFAN, they're he just needs to hang out in the corner and hit threes. I saved that. Anyway, sports debate show. Different people from different parts. And the host, Tony Reale, is scoring the argument. And the winner of the person who, the journalist that finishes with the most points, gets 30 seconds at the end of the show to talk about whatever they want. Perfect. Fantastic. The show is one of ESPN's it's a higher rated show. For instance, Stephen A. Smith and First Take. Do you know that Around the Horn does better numbers than First Take? Does better numbers than Get Up? Does better numbers than Pat McAfee? It doesn't do better numbers than PTI. So, it was shocking to me a few weeks ago when I discovered, I think 6 months ago is when the news started rumbling, when I found out that they were canceling Around the Horn. It's a part of my, sports growing up into a sports watching adult happened on Around the Horn. Woody Page, epic comeback, all that stuff. And listen, Tony Reale being from New York didn't hurt. He's got a little Italian, little accent, he's wearing the J's, it's all good. You start to wonder, you never read an article about, the host of Around the Horn wants more money or anything like that. There was never anything. So you wonder why ESPN would cancel one of its most profitable shows, because you have What are they paying the sports writers to be on there for a half hour? Hell, sports writers that write for newspapers, and you want them to be on TV, they're probably like, please, yes, absolutely, I will do that. Let's go, I need more pub. Ask Frank Isola. Point is that it's a show that doesn't cost a lot of money to produce, and it's a low maintenance show, and it's in a prime slot, and it's delivered numbers, and it doesn't cost you money. So why did they cancel the show? Then I started hypothesizing. So over the years, the show has, I think it debuted 20-something years ago. It debuted like 2003, 2004, something like that. Anyway, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. It's around there. And, Tony Reale, he's been going around doing interviews, the host of the show. And he said, there came a point where I looked at the screens and I'm like, all right, you can't have like 4 white guys. Like it needs to be, we need to have different voices be heard. So, the panel started to change up, and you had not forced. It's just that time evolved. You know what I'm saying? So like, you had a lot of women on there, Jackie McMullen. You had a lot of people, non-white people on there. So if you get a FaceTime from, Kevin Blackistone, who's a journalist, he's also, I think he teaches journalism at a school in Washington, D.C. If he gets a FaceTime, you might get he might give you 30 seconds of something that you don't, oh wow, I gotta check out that story that I don't know about. It's not, so sometimes, and listen, they never did whole shows on social issues. I just want to say that. And I don't know Tony Reale's political views. To be honest, he's not out there really screaming them. He's out there screaming that he's a kind and decent person. You know what I'm saying? Family person. But I don't get any hints of like him liking Trump or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So, but then again, also don't get the vibe that he's like some raging liberal. I just think he's like but he's a kind and decent person. So like if a school gets shot up, you know what I'm saying? He's not gonna, he's gonna applaud a panelist who does a FaceTime on that. Or if there's a panelist dealing with depression and they mention it on the air and they mention their struggle in their FaceTime and how that show and fans of that show kept that person going instead of making a cowardly decision. So like sometimes it would do that. And again, this is in the FaceTime 30-second portion at the end of the show. So you think about that, and then you think about media conglomerates, right? ESPN is owned by Disney. Okay? Disney, the Mickey Mouse people, they're not exactly, liberal, but like, they don't like Ron DeSantis, so whatever. But you also have ESPN, which the rumblings are ESPN is going to buy the NFL network from the NFL. ESPN is going to own the NFL network. Also, now I'm not saying that, listen, ESPN gets ratings and it makes a lot of money, but also like you see all the people all the cuts recently, like they hemorrhage money. So Disney would love to pass off ESPN. And I think that ESPN buying NFL Network is a way for the NFL to kind of subsidize ESPN. And the NFL, where are their political leanings? So now you're starting to see it, right? And then you read an article, I think it's The Athletic, Andrew Marchand, ooh, what a douchebag. He wrote an article where the synopsis, the thesis is like, you know, Around the Horn got too woke, so they canceled it. Like, and then you're reading hot takes from websites like Awful Announcing, who are like, you know, PTI wasn't really that revolutionary. It actually was. It was literally, it's a show that you turn on and it feels different. PTI feels different when Highly Questionable was on. It's a show that felt different, that feels real, that feels genuine. You turn on First Take, I don't care, and I love watching Mad Dog on First Take on Wednesdays, you know what I'm saying? But the rest of the week is, okay, let's fake some fucking argument, you know what I'm saying? Let's decide what the topic is going to be, and let's fake some fight that we get into. Where at the end of the day, we don't really care. That's not what the 5 o'clock hour at ESPN is. And ESPN may have made a mistake, because I read somewhere also that the 5 o'clock slot, because I don't know who's taking over that. I don't know what show is going to be in that spot. Word on the street is that they were going to give it to Shannon Sharp, but he stepped back from ESPN due to, you know, you can Google that. Due to men being men. You want to keep it a buck. Men being men and wondering why they're alone. But, so maybe they planned on, maybe that's why they were canceling it. They were looking for a spot to slide him in. But either way, he's not, so. And I don't know what Tony Reali's going to do. I would love to see him on a sports show or something, whatever. I'll follow him in his next endeavors. But again, at 5 o'clock today, as this airs on May 23rd, a show will go off the air, live, a talk show, will go off the air that had more episodes than Oprah, that had more episodes than the Jerry Springer Show, that had more episodes than The Late Show with David Letterman. Facts. So, if you want to think about it, if you're wondering why Around the Horn is no longer going to be on, let's just keep it a buck. It's no longer going to be on because corporate overlords have deemed it too woke. And because it's too woke, they don't want anything to do with it. And for the record, again, woke. What does woke mean? Well, woke means that you're awoken to the atrocities that surround you and the corruption that surrounds you, and you see it. You're not, wearing blinders. You see it, eyes wide open. Why would that be a bad thing? So anybody who uses that, again, that's in media, in, music, in YouTube reactions, oh, I didn't like that, it's too woke. Anybody that's using woke as some sort of fucking slur get away from that person. Get away from that entity. Move away from that. That is not... I'm not with that woke shit. What is that like? You know what I mean? What are you talking about? I don't. You mean you don't care about anybody besides yourself? Copy. Sorry that I give a fuck when people get mistreated. Peers of mine get treated like shit. Sorry that I'm a human being. And Tony Reale being a human being cost him a television show. But again, they had a great run, so it's not like, oh man, like that's why I'm mourning the show. I'm not like, what, like fanboy. Like I'm a fanboy of it, but like it's different. I feel like it's almost like it's the end of an era. So like tomorrow I'm working. I usually have my break at 4:00. I'm gonna try to push my break to like 4:30 because it's an hour, so that I can be in the break room to watch Around the Horn, to watch the final episode, because I watched the first one and I'm gonna watch the last one. And it sucks. And it's a piece of you, it's a piece of, 18-year-old Jay that is gone. 5:00 every day. Unless there was like a sporting event on, or golf ran along or something. But like, fun characters. Again, tons of people came from Around the Horn. Pablo Torre, Around the Horn. Israel Gutierrez. Again, Kevin Blackistone. Frank Isola didn't come from Around the Horn. But like people like Woody Page, Bob Ryan, Jackie McMullen, Bill Plaschke. These are writers and journalists, newspaper and journalists around the country who have, been introduced to everybody, not just the local town paper, like because of a show like this. And it's about community, right? And that's what's important. It's about being in community with people who are your peers, and like with people who align with your values. Like, so I like to watch sports, coverage of sports. I like to watch when it's not a fake argument to try to drum up ratings, to try to get a viral moment, to get a viral take. Like, I don't want that. Like, that's not appealing to me. What's appealing to me is watching real people have real conversations. And real people having real conversations is less and less prevalent on anywhere these days. So that's my Around the Horn eulogy. So Tony Reale, thank you. All of the panelists that I've mentioned, that I haven't mentioned, thank you, because if you've done anything for me, it's helped me win sports debates with, my friends and people at the various jobs I've worked since the show has went on. And, helping me come up with things to talk about with my dad, you know what I'm saying? So, thank you, Around the Horn. ESPN, screw you for canceling it. And I hope you enjoy, the downfall of your network because you hemorrhage money, and eventually that's going to catch up with you. Like, ESPN getting in bed with the NFL, the league that doesn't, a quarterback takes a knee for social injustice and he's not allowed to play football anymore. A very racist league. So that's the whole, that's one of the whole, if you ask yourself, hey Jason, why is, explain to me how this country is systemically racist. That's that's part of it. That would be like the media version of it. So there's that. So there was 20 minutes of not really political, but kind of political. Talk about a show that I liked, that I loved, that will air its final episode tomorrow. So thank you everybody who contributed to Around the Horn. And thank you everybody who's watching this. I don't think that this is going to get a lot of views when people see the title. I don't think anyone's going to care. Maybe I'll tag Tony Reale in it. Nah, I'm not going to be that much with it. Anyway, thank you for letting me get this off my chest. Please send $1 to my Cash App. Do me a favor. I got to buy lunch tomorrow. Got to walk to 7-Eleven, get my little mini tacos. Come on, hook me up. All right. Check you guys later.